At the base of a big tree on Mount Takao, a young boy named Kotarou asks a winged girl, Hime-chan, with teary eyes if she will marry him when they grow up. They seal this promise with a pinky swear. Years later, in a quiet house near the mountain, the past seems to whisper in the wind. Moving boxes sit at the entrance, showing that someone new has just moved in. A single feather drifts through the hallway. Now grown up, Kotarou is working hard at his desk. He types on his computer and sends an email. With one last key press, his work is done. He sighs in relief. On his desk lies a book titled A Study of Mysterious Folklores. He picks it up and flips through the pages, lost in thought. Suddenly, his phone rings. Startled, he gets up to look for it. While searching, he notices an old lunch pack that expires tomorrow. He eats it, but hears a strange rattling sound. The sound leads him to the family altar, where his phone is ringing. On the call, his grandparents are surprised to hear from him. They ask what's going on. He says unpacking wasn't hard, and that he doesn't need anything else. They ask again about what he wants, and mention something about next week. Kotarou is confused. Soon, he finds out his grandparents arranged a trip for him to Mount Takao. He joins the trip with Marissa and her boyfriend. They all receive their tickets. Kotarou looks bored, while the couple shows affection, which annoys him. He tells them it's easy to stay on track with the cable car, but Marissa's boyfriend still acts overprotective. The couple chats happily while boarding, and Kotarou sighs. On the cable car, the view is beautiful. The couple enjoys Tangu loved buns, and is surprised Kotarou bought a whole box. He explains that the route is safe, paved, and has shops and restrooms. At the monkey park, he explains the road is public, so cars can pass too. He also says following the temple road will lead them straight to the top. Marissa asks if he's been studying mountains. They joke he's a mountain geek, impressed by his knowledge. Kotarou explains he just used to live there as a kid. Marissa asks if he recently returned. She notices he doesn't sound happy about moving back. Holding an old compass, Kotarou admits that he doesn't have good memories of this place. Suddenly, a strong wind blows past them. The couple is startled, but Kotarou stays quiet, staring at a big tree in the distance. He remembers the story of being spirited away by a Tangu. Lost in thought, he sits on a bench. Marissa asks if that really happened. Kotarou explains that people told him he disappeared when he was little, but he doesn't remember much. He only knows what others said. Yet he feels like his body remembers, like something inside him tells him not to be there. He wonders if he just forgot getting lost back then, as though a lid was placed on those memories. He recalls being scared, crying, and alone. He wonders if someone saved him. Still, he decides it must be a bad memory, better left forgotten. At a shrine, his eyes suddenly catch a familiar figure. His companions ask what he's looking at. A memory hits him. He sees his younger self calling a girl, Mei-chan. She gently holds his hand. His water bottle falls, splashing on the ground, and he snaps back to the present. Confused, he stares at the spilled water. His friends mention the shrine's god is a Tangu. Distracted, Kotarou says he already knows. A memory surfaces, a large black wing. His friends admire the autumn leaves. He recalls someone teaching him the names of trees and flowers. Marissa uses an app to identify one, while her boyfriend jokes about eating it. Another memory flashes. He was meeting someone here. Looking into the woods, he sees her, the winged girl from his past. His friends call out, but Kotarou suddenly runs off into the forest, pulled by something deep inside. He takes a path off the main road, but somehow knows where it leads. Pushing through the brush, he reaches a spot that feels familiar. A vine snags his jacket and he slips, startled. Then he sees it, a huge white fox with glowing eyes. Memories flood back, the winged girl standing beside the creature wearing a Tengu mask. On the ground, Kotarou looks up at her. She warns him not to come here, and reminds him this is the third time. He jolts back to reality, finding himself kneeling on the steps. His friends rush over, worried. They ask what happened, but he can barely speak, still processing what he saw. He wonders, why did that girl look so familiar? Kotarou is sure he has seen her before. He wonders if he really met that girl. Suddenly, a memory of a car sliding flashes in his mind. Then, he's back in his kitchen at night, cooking miso ramen. His eyes fall on the compass and an old diary. Reading the diary, he clenches his fist, forgetting about the boiling pot. Later, he returns to Mount Takao's Yakuo-in temple at night. The forest is dark and quiet, but he keeps walking. He sees a vision of his younger self, lost and scared. His feet move on their own, as if guiding him. He feels he forgot something important, and that he has to meet someone there. On the dark path, he stumbles and falls, crying out. When he looks up, he's at the base of the sacred tree. There, his younger self is crying next to the big white fox. The winged girl appears and asks how long he plans to cry. She offers her hand and heals his wounds with a glowing touch. The young Kotarou stares in awe as the pain fades. She asks if it still hurts and offers to bring medicine. Blushing, the boy can only stay quiet. Snapping back to the present, Kotarou finds himself face to face with the same girl. She rushes over, worried if he's okay, while he rests against the fox. She waves her hand in front of his face, calling his name, Kotarou? She remembers he was hurt here before. Memories flood back and Kotarou asks if she saved him back then. He recalls falling on a field trip, cushioned by a big dog. Looking hopeful, he asks if she remembers him. Excited, he clasps his hands and says he knew it. She recalls him crying alone, how she healed his scrapes and played with him, and she can't believe he forgot. She asks if he remembers the promise they made, but Kotarou looks confused. Promise? She freezes in shock. Hurt? She wonders what she did wrong. She reminds him of her warning not to come a third time. He remembers her saying that. Then she asks if he knows the law of the village. She explains, if you meet the same person 3 times under the sacred tree, the two must marry. She cuddles up to him and declares that by law, they now have to get married. Kotarou is completely stunned. Inside a traditional house, a noisy banquet is being held. The Tangu celebrate Hime and Kotarou's marriage, raising cups of sake. Kotarou sits awkwardly as one Tangu asks if he's already drunk. Some cry with joy that Hime-sama is finally getting married. Suddenly, Hime bursts in, slamming the door. Angry, she demands to know why a banquet started without her. She points out the congratulations banner is just a reused birthday sign. The Tengu remind her of her duties, but she brushes them off and cancels the banquet, upsetting everyone. Later, Hime admits she's sad that Kotarou still doesn't remember their past. Kotarou insists he can't marry so suddenly, but Ichan, the fox, blurts out that Hime was excited about the marriage. Embarrassed, Hime admits it's true. The other Tengu swarm Kotarou, asking personal questions about his job, love life, and money. Hime tries to stop them, but Kotarou answers politely. He says he was born in Hachioji, works as a system engineer, and has no girlfriend. Confirming he's single, Kotarou becomes uncomfortable. Finally, he says firmly he won't get married. The Tengu are shocked. He thanks them for saving him twice, but says their village rules don't apply to him. He offers to apologize for breaking them, but the elder Tengu ignores him. Hime calls to her grandmother, the village elder. With a fierce glare, the elder says the rules are absolute. Hime must give birth to an heir. Horrified, Kotarou tries to protest, but Hime steps in, begging her grandmother to wait. She says Kotarou is just having trouble remembering. The elder agrees to let her talk to him, believing his memories will return. Hime then grabs Kotarou and leads him down a hall. Quietly, she tells him to run away. She gives him his phone and promises to help him escape through the sky while the others are drunk. Kotarou says they need his shoes. Hime asks if he will take her with him. She admits she doesn't want to marry either, but it's complicated. He notices she seems to be forgetting things too, but she only smiles knowingly. Kotarou remembers following her around as a child, calling her name, and admits he recalls that. Hime asks if he has a family to protect. She says she does, explaining her heavy responsibilities. She apologizes for dragging him into her situation. They find his shoes, but Kotarou realizes his wallet and compass are missing. Panicked, he explains what the compass looks like. Hime says maybe someone else picked it up. Outside, a group of young Tengu spot them and whisper about a human being there. Hime spreads her wings slightly, reminding Kotarou the compass is small enough to fit in his hand. Acting on impulse, Kotarou reaches out and touches one of Jaime's wings. It twitches, making her flustered. She asks what he's doing, while Kotarou, fascinated, says her wings feel like a real bird's and that they actually move. Embarrassed, he quickly pulls his hand back and apologizes. He then asks why she isn't afraid of him. He points out that normal people would be scared to see a Tengu. Hime explains that they are yukai, messengers of the mountain god, and the fact he isn't scared makes her happy. Surprised, Kotarou admits that he actually is afraid. As they walk, Kotarou overhears other Tengu whispering. They think Hime brought him to avoid matchmaking and complain she doesn't wear her mask, saying she should focus on her role as leader instead of admiring the outside world. Hime sighs, saying they'll have to explain themselves later, while Kotarou grows annoyed. Kotarou then learns that him, not her grandmother, is the leader. She explains her family history. Her parents and grandparents are gone, so the village raised her. She thinks of them all as family and knows they mean well, but Kotarou feels their thinking is outdated. Hime complains about her traditional clothes, saying shorter hakamas are cuter. She also hates the Tengu mask, calling it unfashionable. Her blunt honesty makes Kotarou's heart race. She pats him on the back and says it's better to speak face to face. Smiling brightly, she says he really understands her. She then brings up the smartphone she gave him. Kotarou confirms it's a phone. Proudly, Hime shows off that she also knows about computers and tablets. She explains she collects devices dropped by mountain climbers near a cliff. She's seen people take photos with them and dreams of doing the same, wearing stylish clothes, eating good food, shopping, and taking pictures with friends and lovers. To her, the outside world seems amazing. Kotarou explains those phones are useless without electricity or passwords. Hime laments that as the leader, she's expected to marry and have children, but deep down she just wanted to dream a little more. Embarrassed, she apologizes for the strange talk, then runs off to find his compass, thinking Ichan the fox might have it. Left alone, Kotarou puts on his shoes and looks at the phone she gave him. He overhears other Tengu talking about how Hime must marry for the good of the village, even if she suffers. Kotarou listens quietly, realizing they also have their own pressures. Soon Hime returns, holding his compass. She tells him that once she gives it back, they'll have to part. Kotarou feels a wave of sadness. She places the compass in his hand, and it begins to glow. Confused, he asks what it is. Hime explains she turned it into a protection charm so he won't lose it again. She wishes him good health and safety with a warm smile, leaving Kotarou speechless. Determined, Hime says they should go. Worried, Kotarou asks if she'll be punished for breaking the rules. She admits she was always told something bad would happen, but nothing ever has, even though her grandmother insists. Brushing it off, Hime says it's her problem as a Tengu, not his. Kotarou suddenly stops and tells her seriously that while he doesn't fully understand her situation, he thinks it's simple. Maybe she doesn't need to follow the rules either. He tells her she can live however she wants, fall in love with anyone, marry whoever she chooses, or not marry at all. Hime is left shocked and speechless. She protests, saying if she doesn't marry, it will mean the end of her family and village. But Kotarou says that's fine. He tells her to be selfish because it's her life. He clarifies that it's not wrong to think of her family and village, but first she should try the things she wants to do, then decide later. She needs to figure out what she truly wants. Kotarou admits she might be punished, but says until then, she should try living outside the village. Hime considers it but quickly says it's impossible. Kotarou reassures her that she can always come back and that having a place to return to gives her the freedom to try new things. His words move her deeply, leaving her blushing and thoughtful. Excited, Hime asks if she could wear short skirts, cute Western clothes, and shop in stylish stores. Kotarou smiles and tells her she can. As Hime talks about walking through the city and riding trains, her face shines with joy. She flaps her wings excitedly, asking if she can wear dresses and sleeveless clothes. She lists everything she wants to try. Stylish outfits, nail polish, sneakers. With determination, she says she'll do it all. She adds that she wants to eat seafood, wait in line at a ramen shop, and have a mountain of meat. She dreams of walking on the beach, taking pictures, and doing all this with a friend, or even a lover. Kotarou gently takes her hand as she says she wants to live that life. With hope in her eyes, Hime declares she's going to do it, and then announces she'll live in Kotarou's house. Shocked, Kotarou blurts out, "What?" Before he can argue, Hime grabs him and takes off into the sky. Kotarou screams for her to wait as she carries him back to the banquet, proudly telling everyone she's moving into his house as his wife. The Tengu cheer loudly. As they fly off again, Kotarou dangles helplessly, wondering how things got so out of hand. Hime happily sighs about living in his house as his wife. Kotarou asks if she even heard what he said. She reminds him he told her she didn't need to follow the rules, and since he also said she could love anyone, she considers them engaged. To her, this means she'll be his wife and it still follows the rules. Kotarou is left speechless. They land roughly at his house. Hime beams, calling it her new home. Kotarou tells her not to decide things on her own. She sadly says he really doesn't remember and asks if he remembers their promise. Kotarou, confused, asks what promise. With a playful smile, she says she won't tell until he remembers, squeezing his arm. She whispers something, but when he asks her to repeat it, she laughs and says it's nothing. Putting her arm around him, she declares they'll get along well as they walk inside. The next morning, Kotarou wakes up on his couch to his 7:30 alarm. A sudden memory makes him flinch. He turns to see Hime asleep at the table, mumbling about food in her dreams. With a sigh, he realizes she's really in his house. He walks closer and stares at her wings, gently touching a feather. A childhood memory flashes in his mind, and he whispers her name. Startled, Hime wakes up blushing, furious that he touched her wings while she slept. She throws things at him before calming down. Trying again, she bows and formally places herself in his care. Kotarou stammers, unsure what to do. She cheerfully accepts, promising to treat him well. Exhausted, Kotarou slides her a box of sweets. Tengus love manju. She eagerly suggests greeting his family, but he refuses. He explains he only meant she should try living in the outside world, not move into his house. Hime insists she can't live alone and only knows him here. All the other Tengu live on the mountain. She begins unpacking, saying she already told everyone she's getting married so she can't go home empty-handed. Defeated, Kotarou sighs and allows her to stay a little while. She happily agrees, but declares she won't leave. Excited, Hime pulls out her comb and shows him her collection of treasures. To Kotaru's shock, a fox pops out of a small jar. She casually explains it's a magic jar for storage. She offers him sweets made by her village. Curious, Kotarou asks about her powers. She says it's Tangu magic, though she's not very good at it. Fascinated, he grabs her hand, rubbing it and marveling that something so normal can create light. Blushing, Hime points out his habit of touching her, teasing if he's that interested in her body. Embarrassed, Kotarou apologizes. Hime then announces it's time to clean. She ties up her hair and grabs a broom. Kotarou doubts her cleaning skills, but she insists she can. He sighs and hands her a vacuum cleaner instead. Suspicious, she asks if it's a weapon. When he explains it uses electricity, she's amazed. Nervous at first, she starts vacuuming. She jumps when it roars to life, then quickly becomes excited as she learns how to use it. Seeing her busy, Kotarou starts doing the laundry and tells her to clean the back room. But when she reaches for the sliding door, Kotarou rushes to stop her. He says she doesn't need to clean that room. Ignoring him, Hime slides the door open and gasps at what she sees. The room is a huge library, filled with books from floor to ceiling. Hime is amazed and asks if they all belong to Kotarou. He explains they were his late grandfather's. Hime, who has never seen so many books, excitedly looks through the shelves. She wonders if any are about yukai. She pulls out one, her eyes widening as she reads the title, Studies about Japanese Yukai. Smiling, she says Kotarou must like yukai. He quickly denies it. She teases him, saying he doesn't need to hide it, and jokes that it explains why he was so interested in her body earlier. Flustered, Kotarou repeats that the books belong to his grandfather. Her playful mood softens. She says his grandfather must have liked yukai, and adds that she wishes she could have shown him her wings and powers. She then mentions there's still a secret power she hasn't shown Kotarou. Looking around, Hime notices the room is dusty. Kotarou heads off to do laundry and tells her to take off her socks so they don't get dirty. She asks if he just moved in. He says yes. Hime kneels at the family altar, bowing to his late grandparents. Kotarou quietly thanks her. She apologizes for assuming he had always lived here with family. Kotarou reveals he grew up in an orphanage and had no family. Hime clenches her fists and admits she also has no family, though she always had her village. Kotarou explains that his grandfather's friends took care of him and the house, since no other relatives could take him in. He says a child can't live alone in society. Hime looks at him with soft eyes and gently says he must have been lonely. Her words stun him. Flustered, he quickly denies it, but her knowing smile shows she doesn't believe him. Embarrassed, he points out her feet are now black with dust. She runs off, saying she'll take care of everything. Kotarou tries to stop her, insisting he'll do the laundry and clean every day. But Hime smiles brightly and says she'll do it all instead. Wake him up, cook, and wash his clothes. Kotarou is left stunned. Hime starts chores while Kotarou panics, shouting for her not to touch anything. Relieved he stopped her before she washed his underwear with her washboard, he grabs the laundry and asks if she knows how to use a washing machine. As he opens the washroom door, Hime is waiting outside. Surprised, he slams it shut. He apologizes from behind the door, embarrassed. He yells, asking why she's changing clothes. Realizing he barged in, he shuts it again. Hime, now in her under-kimono, looks confused by his reaction. He wonders why she was furious when he touched her wings, but fine with this. Pouting, she says she wishes he had reacted that way earlier when he touched her wings. A note explains that for Tangu, wings are the most intimate part to be touched. Kotarou sighs, telling her she should just go home, but then he notices her stomach growling even though she's eating a manju. Blushing, she insists she's just hungry. He points out it's already her fifth one. Checking the empty fridge, Kotarou decides to go to the convenience store. But Hime spots something, cup noodles. Excited, she says she wants to try them. Kotarou is surprised, warning it won't look as good as the picture. Hime explains she saw people eating them in the mountains and always wanted to try. She's amazed that all the ingredients are inside and you just add hot water. Looking at him with pleading eyes, she asks if she can. Kotarou agrees. While he thinks it's nothing special, Hime watches in awe as he tears open the packaging. He asks if she wants to try making it herself. After a moment, she decides to eat the same flavor as him. He tells her to peel the lid halfway. Nervously, she does it and gasps at the dried contents inside. Kotarou chuckles and explains that's normal. He pours hot water up to the line inside. Hime panics, thinking it will overflow, but he reassures her. As the noodles expand, she watches in wonder. He tells her to close the lid. They wait for the timer, Hime impatiently counting the seconds. When it beeps, she rips open the lid and gasps at the steaming ramen inside. She asks eagerly if she can eat now. They sit down to eat. Kotarou tells her to dig in before it gets soggy. He takes a bite, and Hime tries hers with wide eyes, delight filling her face. She slurps the noodles happily, exclaiming how delicious they are. She marvels at the tender noodles and strange bits of meat, calling ramen weird soba. Kotarou laughs and explains it's a Chinese-style noodle. She wonders how something so tasty could be made with just hot water. Watching her excitement, Kotarou smiles and offers her another one, teasing that she eats a lot. Flustered, Hime denies it. After finishing her fourth cup, Hime thanks Kotarou for the delicious meal. She smiles happily, saying she has tried so many new things she never imagined, like eating soba that tastes different. She remembers how he didn't want her to stay at first, but now she's living in his house. Grateful, she tells him she's lucky to have met him. Her warm smile takes Kotarou by surprise. Embarrassed, he tells her not to get so emotional over a cup of ramen. But Hime insists that without him she would never have had this experience. Flustered, Kotarou looks away while she cheerfully says she'll brag to everyone back on the mountain about the amazing food. When Kotarou mentions there's plenty more she hasn't tried yet, Hime's eyes widen with excitement. He tells her to think about what she wants for tomorrow's meal. Overjoyed, she even asks if she can keep the empty ramen cup as a treasure. Amused, Kotarou agrees, secretly thinking she can stay for a while. Hime beams, promising to clean and cherish it forever. Then she suddenly announces that she already laid out the futons, leaving Kotarou in shock. The next morning, Hime eagerly watches Kotarou cook breakfast. She squeals in delight when she lifts the pan lid, then proudly presents her first toast. Curious about the food, she points at the bread, red sauce, and what she calls sparkling eggs. She says the Japanese name for fried eggs, medamayaki, sounds scary, but admits they taste good. Kotarou is just glad she likes them. Excited, she asks if the coffee is ready, and they say thanks before eating. Hime takes her first bite and gasps at how delicious it is. The springy bread, the sweet sauce, and the tender eggs. She laughs, saying she first thought the toast was a big rice cracker. Kotarou quietly eats, relieved there was still bread in the house. Hime is already looking forward to lunch, and Kotarou promises to get her whatever she wants. But then he remembers he still needs to hang the futons outside and finish cleaning. Hime, blushing, brings up the idea of sleeping in the same room again, just like the night before. Kotarou turns red, clearly annoyed. Later he finds that Hime has already set up two futons side by side. Smiling, she asks which side he wants. He refuses and tries to move one futon away, but Hime grabs his arm with surprising strength, saying she can't sleep alone. Kotarou insists, carrying one futon to another room and declaring it her temporary bedroom. Hime pouts, saying it's too far from his room, but Kotarou argues that living together is strange enough already. She innocently replies that since they're married, it's normal to share the same room. Flustered, Kotarou ignores her and points firmly to the separate room. Later at breakfast, Hime sweetly asks for a bite of his toast with white sauce. He agrees but tells her to bite the other side. Instead, she grabs the whole slice and takes a huge bite. Kotarou sighs at her big mouth, while Hime happily says the mayonnaise is delicious. She offers him her own toast, but when he refuses, she grabs his shirt and insists. Just then, the doorbell rings. A mailman asks if this is Tsukisaka Kotarou's house and hands him a registered letter. The mailman comments that the house has been empty for a long time, but his boss remembered the Tsukisaka family. Hearing "Welcome back," Kotarou is surprised that people still remember his family here. As the mailman leaves, Kotarou closes the door, only to see Hime peeking from the other room. Panic hits him. What if people discover her? He imagines terrifying scenarios of her being exposed online, captured, or even experimented on. His face goes pale, concerned. Hime asks what's wrong. Kotarou brushes it off, joking that the mailman might just think she's a cosplayer. Unconvinced, Hime presses him, but he tells her to be more careful. Suddenly, he notices an old woman sitting outside. Alarmed, he rushes to open the door. The woman smiles, saying, "You've really come back." Kotarou explains he's the grandson, not his father. She chuckles, saying her eyesight isn't good anymore, and sometimes her great-grandchildren tease her for it. Relieved she probably didn't notice Hime, Kotarou relaxes. The woman gently pats his arm, recalling his childhood, how he loved watermelon, ate plenty of mochi at New Year's, and how his grandmother's ohagi were the best. She laughs, saying his grandma would send him over with sweets, but he often ate them before delivering them. Embarrassed, Kotarou apologizes. The woman takes his hand warmly, telling him again how much he's grown. The woman keeps talking fondly about his grandmother's ohagi. Kotarou remembers himself as a child, happily eating them. Lost in thought, he quietly admits he loved them too. After seeing the old woman off, Kotarou goes back inside. He picks up his compass from the desk and slips it into his pocket. Then he opens Hime's door and is surprised. She's sitting quietly, looking downcast. Softly, she says she likes ohagi too. Kotarou agrees, saying they're tasty. Suddenly, Hime brightens up and offers to make some for him. Seeing his reaction, she quickly apologizes, but Kotarou assures her that isn't the problem. He gently pats her head and tells her he'll bring a heater for her room. The gesture makes her relax a little. When he leaves, Hime flips through delivery flyers, searching for something. The day turns busy with constant visitors, neighbors bringing vegetables, and people dropping off association notices. Kotarou grows stressed, but Hime is thrilled by the fresh vegetables. Holding a big radish, she happily says it would taste good raw or boiled. Meanwhile, Kotarou imagines the danger of the villagers finding out about her and spreading rumors. He realizes that if they stay here, life will be hard for her. His stomach growls from stress, but Hime mistakes it for hunger. Pouting, she asks how he wants the radish cooked. Kotarou laughs, apologizes, and suggests they eat something else. He decides to try ordering food online with Uber Eats, but no restaurants deliver in the area. Annoyed, he shows Hime the service not available message. Hime is amazed by the electric plank, the tablet. Kotarou sighs in defeat, planning to go to the convenience store. But then Hime happily pulls out a stack of old paper menus she found and asks if they can order from them. Relieved, Kotarou agrees. They flip through the menus from a local soba and udon shop. Holding one menu makes Kotarou nostalgic. He explains this was how people used to order food and that they'll need to return the bowls later. Excited, Hime points to curry udon and says she wants to try it. Kotarou warns her she's had udon before, but agrees anyway. While waiting, he checks online about how to return the dishes. Soon, the delivery man from Masukawa restaurant arrives. The order is 1,400 yen. Kotarou pays in cash and gets his change. The man asks if Kotarou used to live here, explaining that his father remembered a boy who loved mochi once lived in this house. Thanking him, the man leaves, and Kotarou stands stunned at the door. When they sit down, steam rises from the bowls. Hime happily comments on the curry smell. Kotarou corrects her, saying it's mostly the broth. Curious, she asks what he ordered. He peels open his bowl. Chikara udon, the same one from the menu. Hime notices his bowl has 3 mochi pieces, not 2 like in the picture. Kotarou stares for a moment, realizing it must be a thoughtful gift from the owner. Covering his face, he tries to hide his emotions. Hime asks if he's okay. He nods, saying they should just eat. They begin. Hime sniffs her steaming curry udon, her face glowing with joy before she slurps it down. She exclaims how delicious it is. Kotarou eats too. The familiar taste fills his mouth and he smiles softly. He remembers eating this dish as a child with the kind owner of the restaurant. Taking another bite of the chewy mochi, he feels warmth and comfort from the memory. Hime watches him with an understanding smile. He keeps eating quietly, savoring the moment and reconnecting with his past. When they finish, Hime sighs happily, saying she's full. Kotarou, however, claims he could eat more. Hime hums a tune as she flips through menus again, asking what they should order next. Kotarou checks his phone and asks if it's possible to order again. Hime excitedly confirms. She declares that from now on they'll eat lots of delicious things together. Kotarou groans, saying she only ever thinks about food. Flustered, Hime denies it, saying it's just that so many things on the menus look tasty. She starts listing dishes she wants to try: sushi, pizza, fried meat. As she daydreams about more meals, Kotarou quietly thinks about her words. From now on, Hime suddenly calls his name from the doorway, snapping him out of his thoughts. Hime finds Kotarou sleeping on the couch again. She leans down, pokes his cheek, and tells him it's morning. Kotarou jumps up, startled, as Hime scolds him for not using the futon. Proudly, Hime shows the breakfast she made: 3 huge rice balls. Kotarou looks doubtful and calls them just clumps of rice, which upsets Hime. She insists they're real onigiri with fillings. She explains the flavors: boiled egg, grilled meat, and rice mixed with yesterday's Aurora sauce. Kotarou eats one and admits the sauce-flavored one tastes good. Curious, he asks how she knew how to use the rice cooker. Hime tilts her head in confusion. She doesn't know what a rice cooker is. She says she just used his pots, though they were very different from what she's used to. Kotarou gets a bad feeling and hurries to the kitchen, only to find it completely messy. Hime explains she also tried to make miso soup, but couldn't find any miso. Instead, she boiled water, salt, and soy sauce together. Kotarou stares at the ruined pot and asks how she plans to clean it. Then he asks why she tried to cook in the first place. Hime looks down sadly. She admits she feels she hasn't been a good wife and wanted to learn. She thought she needed to at least make him breakfast. Kotarou tells her it's not necessary. There are no rules saying wives must cook, but Hime insists a wife should know how. Kotarou explains that times have changed and things are easier now. He tosses her some instant miso soup packets. He shows her how to make it. Just empty the packet into a bowl and add hot water. Amazed, Hime watches the soup appear, saying it's like instant ramen. She sniffs it and is surprised it smells just like real miso soup. Kotarou reassures her she doesn't need to stress about cooking every morning. He thanks her for waking up early to make breakfast. Hime smiles and sips the soup, delighted by the taste. Kotarou takes another bite of her onigiri and admits the ham one is actually good. Hime blushes, happy that he likes it. Before leaving to shop, Kotarou tells her firmly to stay inside. Hime pouts at his repeated warning, but still waves him off cheerfully, glad she feels like a wife. Kotarou leaves with a worried look. On the street, he gets a text from a friend inviting him for drinks. He refuses, saying someone is waiting for him at home. Looking at the heavy grocery bags, he realizes he may have bought too much. Food and supplies for both of them. He wonders why he's doing all this when he never planned to marry her. He stops, questioning himself. How long can this go on? He was the one who told her to live freely, after all. With a heavy heart, he decides it's time for a serious talk. But when he arrives home, he freezes in shock. Hime is sitting on the porch, happily chatting with an old woman. Panicked, Kotarou rushes over. The woman greets him warmly, but he scolds him for going outside. Hime innocently explains the woman just brought them dango. The neighbor adds that she remembered Kotarou liked red bean dango, leaving him speechless. Flustered, he pulls Hime aside. Nearby, an old man sees them and comments that now he understands why Kotarou came back. He sighs that it's a shame, since he had hoped to set Kotarou up with his granddaughter. Hime cheerfully blurts out that she's still learning how to be a proper wife, embarrassing Kotarou even more. Desperate, Kotarou tries to change the subject, asking if the old man isn't curious about her wings. The man asks, and Kotarou quickly claims it's just a youth fashion trend, like his granddaughter's blue hair. The man nods, accepting the answer. But then Hime blurts out that her wings are real. Kotarou quickly covers again, saying she's just a dedicated cosplayer. The man believes him. Kotarou breathes a sigh of relief until a delivery man overhears and asks if her wings are real, pulling out his phone. Kotarou panics. He yanks Hime inside and slams the door shut. Hime awkwardly tells the man they were doing a photo shoot for their website. Kotarou begs him not to post pictures or tell anyone. Thankfully, the man agrees. Back inside, Kotarou scolds him harshly for going outside. She explains the old woman kept calling his name, and she didn't want to be rude. Kotarou tells her this isn't the same as the mountain. Things are different here. He warns her that if people post pictures of her online, he doesn't even know what could happen. Finally understanding, Hime apologizes. She says maybe she should go back to the mountain after all. Then she grabs his arm, begging not to send her back. She says she wants to stay with him. Frustrated, Kotarou clenches his fist. He tells her she makes a mess of his house, ignores everything he says, and puts his whole life at risk. He finally blurts out that she's a burden and tells her to please go back. Hime is crushed by Kotarou's harsh words. She whispers an apology. The food and water he left for her remain untouched, and he worries she hasn't eaten since yesterday. He wonders if she's okay, or if she's even avoiding people because of what he said. Thinking maybe it's best if she leaves, he turns away, when suddenly the door slams open. Hime stands there, eyes full of tears. She says she'll leave tomorrow, but before she does, she has one request. She asks if she can sleep in the same room as him. That night, Kotarou lies awake while Hime sleeps in a futon beside his. He breaks the silence, admitting he's the one who created distance between them, and asks if she's really okay with this. Hime softly replies that just being in the same room with him is enough. The room is quiet except for the ticking clock. Suddenly, Him jumps into his futon. Their faces are now just inches apart. Kotarou apologizes for being selfish. Hime asks if she's been a burden. He admits he didn't realize her feelings before. Hime confesses she got carried away and thought only of herself, even though he has his own life. With a sad smile, she says she truly enjoyed every moment with him. She tells him that since coming down from the mountains, the world felt bright and exciting. But it wasn't just because it was new. It was because he was there with her. She thanks him for showing her the outside world. Then she tells him to take care of himself, eat properly, and sleep in the futon. Kotarou only says good night. Hime turns her back, and after a pause, Kotarou does the same. Kotarou lies awake, remembering the small joys she brought into his life, waking him up, sharing meals, saying good night. He realizes he had forgotten what those things felt like. Memories of her smiles and laughter flood his mind, from the first time they met on the mountain to all the moments they've shared. He looks at her quiet form beside him, so different from her usual brightness. The next morning, Hime wakes up to find his futon already put away. She hears chopping sounds and follows the smell to the kitchen. There, Kotarou is cooking breakfast. Surprised, she asks if he can cook, He explains that he learned out of necessity after living alone so long. He didn't dislike it. He just never saw the point of cooking for one person. He sets out a large breakfast. Hime takes a sip of soup, her eyes lighting up with joy. She eats the onigiri happily. Kotarou notes that she must have been very hungry since she hadn't eaten the day before. Hime apologizes for yelling at him last night. Kotarou admits he also said awful things, but Hime insists it was her fault. She explains she thought about it all night. Kotarou calls himself irresponsible, wondering if her staying only puts her in danger. But Hime disagrees, saying he always thinks of others first. She says she's the selfish one who became a burden. Kotarou shakes his head and tells her he lied. She's not a burden. In fact, he says being with her has been fun. Living with someone for the first time, he realizes, has been surprisingly enjoyable. He tells her she can stay if she wants to. Hime tries to protest, but he stops her. He suggests they forget about marriage and rules for now. He wants her to have freedom, and he'll help her find a way. He says he's been thinking about how she can live freely without hurting herself or the villagers. He even offers to cook for her every day. He promises that she won't have to hide anymore and can walk outside freely. Excited, Hime asks if this means she can wear cute Western clothes, short skirts, and go shopping. Kotarou nods seriously, calling her name, and says she can stay as long as she wants. Hime tears up. Kotarou panics, grabbing tissues and apologizing, asking if she's sure. Through her tears, Hime asks if she really won't be a burden. She admits she always thought she was troublesome, selfish, and spoiled. Crying, she declares that she loves living in his house and wants to stay with him. Kotarou gently tells her she can stay as long as she likes, but she must promise to listen to him. Hime agrees. Still crying, she asks for more onigiri and happily eats while wiping her tears. Kotarou teases her about loving food. Then he adds that there are plenty of men nicer than him, and if she ever finds one she likes, she can leave anytime. Hime glares, annoyed he's still saying that. She reminds him that he was the one who said it first. Kotarou pretends not to know what she means. Smiling slyly, Hime says she'll wait until he says it again. Kotarou is left flustered, while she cheerfully keeps eating the breakfast he made. In a quiet yard, a leaf drifts down and lands on a sleeping white fox named Ikichi. The fox yawns and wakes up. Kotarou is surprised to see it outside and guesses Hime must have let it out to enjoy the weather. He feels sorry that the fox always has to stay inside a jar. Kotarou apologizes for the noise of his sweeping and decides to move elsewhere. Suddenly, something hits him from behind. He turns and sees Ikichi has grown into a giant fox, proudly showing a mousetrap as if it were food. Hime scolds the fox for the prank, while Kotarou rubs his head and tells her not to be too angry. Later, Kotarou carefully picks an outfit and chooses a collared shirt. Looking determined, he puts on a jacket and heads for the door. Hime appears and asks where he's going. Kotarou tells her he's going to visit her home. Shocked, Hime crushes the flyer in her hand, panicking at the thought of him asking for her hand in marriage. Kotarou explains that's not his plan. He only wants to visit her family since they left without saying anything. He feels her family must be worried and that it's rude not to greet them. Touched, Hime realizes he's doing this because her village trusted him to take care of her. Kotarou admits it may be too late to make peace and that he might even get beaten up. Still, he promises to tell them what's needed so she can live freely outside the village. Hime giggles, saying he's always so kind, to her and to everyone else. She clings to him with a bright smile, teasing that he must have dressed nicely just for this. Embarrassed, he denies it. With a running start, Hime takes off into the night sky carrying Kotarou. They land, and Kotarou shivers in the December cold. Hime teases him for being weak despite wearing a thick jacket. She presses and kneads the fabric, surprising him. She then snuggles into his jacket, saying it feels warm like a freshly dried futon. Kotarou tells her to stop and grabs her hand, noticing how cold it is. Hime insists she's fine, but a sudden sneeze proves otherwise. Hand in hand, they walk through the woods until they reach a lively banquet. Villagers are already celebrating. Kotarou is stunned, while Hime happily eats a big bowl of food. A villager pats Kotarou on the back, saying they thought the two ran away because the marriage wasn't approved, and congratulates them. Another villager is glad Hime found a good man. Kotarou tries to explain, but an elder calmly says marriage takes time. Hime cheerfully tells everyone she'll be living with Kotarou, and that he came to greet them. Put on the spot, Kotarou clears his throat, bows, and apologizes for leaving suddenly. He explains he just wants to help Hime adjust to the outside world. Hime confirms she plans to live in his house as long as she wants. Kotarou admits he knows it must feel uneasy to trust her to a human, but promises to protect her and the village. Suddenly, a loud thudding sound shakes the place. A voice booms, calling it outrageous to trust the heir of Mount Takao's Tengus to a human and immoral for an unmarried man and woman to live together. Kotarou nervously suggests going outside, but before they can, the doors burst open. A tall Tangu with long blonde hair storms in, loudly declaring that the marriage must be stopped. A villager cheers for their boss as Kotarou stares in shock. The Tengu introduces himself as Atagoyama Ichiruta of the Atagoyama Tarubu clan, one of the 48 Tengu family. Kotarou and Hime are stunned. Hime explains that Tarubu Oji-sama is the supreme leader of all Tengus and one of the 8 strongest, but Ichiruta is only one of his kin. Hime demands to know why he's here, but Ichiruta insults her sharp tongue. He says he came after hearing rumors of a Tengu woman choosing a human over a great Tengu like him. Hime flinches, and Kotarou is shocked. Ichiruta suddenly claims the woman is his fiancé, though his companion quickly corrects him, saying former fiancé. Kotarou is stunned to hear Hime had a fiancé, even if it was arranged. Hime explains she never agreed to it. The elders forced it on her. Kotarou realizes this is the arranged marriage she once mentioned and dismisses it. But Ichiruta angrily shouts that he refuses to marry a woman like her anyway. He asks Hime if she still believes in the village rule that anyone who meets 3 times under the sacred tree must marry. Kotarou steps in, saying clearly the rule isn't enforced, which surprises him. She protests that her grandmother said it was absolute. Ichiruta reminds her they played under the sacred tree as kids, yet nothing happened. Hime argues that was different. They were just children. Kotarou presses, asking if the rule has a written exception for children. He dismisses it as a superstition twisted to suit the villagers, calling it ridiculous. Then he turns to Hime and says maybe she's already tired of all these traditions. Ichiruta accuses Hime of using the 3 times rule as an excuse to escape with a human. He even questions if Hime's real plan was to use Kotarou. Kotarou tries to defend her, but Hime quietly insists she never thought of such a thing. Tears roll down her cheeks as she tells Kotarou he was wrong. Hime explains it wasn't her idea to escape at all. It was her grandmother who told her to leave the village. Her grandmother promised to take any punishment in her place. Kotarou is shocked to learn that Hime's grandmother actually wanted her to live freely outside. Kotarou tells Ichiruta that Hime truly cares for her village and its people. Just as he treasures his own family, she treasures hers, so she would never be selfish. He then challenges Ichiruta, asking why he cares so much about a rule that isn't enforced and carries no punishment. As Hime tries to stop the argument, Kotarou stays firm. He grips the compass in his pocket and faces the elders. He declares that even if it's just a superstition, a belief matters if someone believes in it. Everyone has the freedom to believe in what they choose, and no one should take that away. Ichiruta scoffs and says Kotarou is being used. Hime cries out that she would never lie. Kotarou calmly says he doesn't mind being used. If it means helping Hime's dream of living in the outside world, he'll gladly do it. That's why he came to talk to them. Bowing deeply, Kotarou formally asks the elders to let him live outside. He promises to protect her and the village, swearing he will never make her cry again. The Tengu, even Ichiruta, fall silent at his words. Overcome with emotion, Hime throws herself into Kotarou's arms, sobbing that she never thought of using him. She truly believed in the rule and never lied. She admits that even without the rule, she would still want to be with him. Kotarou gently holds her and says he understands. Annoyed, Ichiruta tells her not to wipe her nose on Kotarou. Then he announces they're leaving, grumbling that this mountain is nothing like flashy Tokyo. His companions complain about the long trip, so he agrees to let them walk around the station and buy sweets. They cheer and fly off, leaving Kotarou wondering what Ichiruta's problem really is. A villager whispers that Ichiruta was supposed to marry Hime before Kotarou appeared. Hime apologizes and thanks Kotarou for protecting her. Then she angrily rants about how much she has always hated Ichiruta, calling him stupid and foul-mouthed. She insists she wasn't lying. She truly hates the idea of marrying Ichiruta because she loves Kotarou. Kotarou gently pats her head as she wipes her tears. When Kotarou turns to leave, he is stunned to see all the villagers gathered to see him off. They remove their masks and Basama holds out a gift, begging him to take care of him. The villagers bow, cheering for them. Hime and Kotarou are both shocked by the support. As they walk away under the night sky, Kotarou takes out his compass. Then he hears Hime call his name. She runs up to him laughing and grabs his hand with a bright smile. "Let's go home," she says. Surprised, Kotarou looks at her, but together they walk on. Kotarou remarks that things went well and that everyone gave their blessing. Hime happily agrees, even saying she's surprised Basama approved. Kotarou, though, looks thoughtful. He asks Hime about the rule again, saying he only remembers meeting her twice. Once when he got lost, and once when he slipped by the tree. Hime confirms this, but Kotarou suddenly realizes, was the third meeting what she always wanted him to remember? Jaime realizes he forgot and sadly says he could have just told her. A flashback shows young Kotarou crying after his grandmother passed away. Jaime looks somber. When Kotarou notices and asks what's wrong, she pats his head and tells him it's better if he doesn't remember. It might make him happier that way. She apologizes for pushing him and says she won't ask again. But Kotarou grabs her hand and refuses to give up. He promises to remember, saying he wants to do it for her. He clasps her hand and vows to say it again once he recalls. Hime, touched, hugs him tightly and thanks him with a joyful smile. Meanwhile, as Ichiruta and his group fly away, one companion complains about being humiliated and wants revenge on Kotarou. Ichiruta tells him to forget it. He says if Kotarou was just blindly in love, it would be easy to mock him. But people who don't wish for anything are the hardest to deal with. His companions don't understand, but he brushes it off and urges them to hurry before the shops close. Back on the ground, Kotarou and Hime share a tender moment. At 6:38 on a cold December morning, Kotarou wakes up to a loud noise. He sees Hime scrubbing the wooden floor with lots of energy, shouting happily as she cleans. Shivering from the chill, Kotarou asks why she's up so early. Outside, a fox walks through the freezing streets of Hachioji. Hime cheerfully says she woke up early, so she decided to clean. She adds that it's important to let fresh air into the house, even in winter. Kotarou, now dressed, thanks her for being so hardworking. He proudly says he never catches colds, only to sneeze loudly right after. Hime sneezes too, then laughs and teases him, saying she must have caught his sneeze. After washing the dishes, a loud shout comes from the door. A delivery has arrived. Hime jumps in surprise, wondering who it is. Kotarou grins, holding two cleaning robots. Hime stares, confused, and asks if they're weapons. She's shocked when she learns the machines can clean for them. A little embarrassed by his dramatic entrance, Kotarou shows her how they work with his phone. But as soon as one robot starts moving, Hime screams and jumps into Kotarou's arms. He explains they're just cleaning robots that sweep and vacuum. Still nervous, Hime pokes the other one and asks what they eat. Kotarou tells her they use electricity. She watches them closely, saying they look like little creatures. Kotarou jokes and calls them Tangu. Hime shakes her head and says they're more like babies who don't know anything yet. Her fear turns into love as she calls them babies. She decides to teach them and proudly takes the role of their senpai. Kotarou laughs and agrees, then sets them to work. While setting up the robots, Kotarou says he'll download the app on a tablet too. Hime notices he looks happy and asks if he likes machines. She points out how he always has new gadgets. Embarrassed, Kotarou denies it, but she teases that he ignores letters while opening every package with machines. Finally, he admits he loves home appliances. Hime smiles and says that while all machines look the same to her, he sees them differently. She then gives the robots names, Lil Sweepy and Lil Cleany. With the robots working, Hime wonders what she should do next since her chores are finished. Kotarou hands her a tablet saying she can use it to buy clothes. She's amazed she can order clothes with just a tablet. He reminds her she wanted to try on modern clothes. She hesitates, saying she's used to the cold and doesn't have money. Kotarou laughs, joking that her food costs are the real problem, then reassures her not to worry about money. Hime's eyes shine with excitement as the tablet lights up. She's thrilled about having modern clothes. Kotarou suddenly asks if she can even wear them with her wings. Calmly, Hime shows how she can shrink her wings with divine power. She also proudly shows sewing changes she made to her clothes, like shortening her hakama. Kotarou is surprised, but she explains she practiced so she could wear any clothes someday. Touched, Kotarou says her practice has finally paid off. She blushes happily, and he confirms again with a cheerful, "Yup." Kotarou then teaches her how to use the shopping app, how to tap items for details and save them with a heart icon. Hime tries, but mispronounces ladies as radies, making Kotarou realize he's on the wrong section. When he asks what she wants to shop for, Hime answers without hesitation, shoes. Kotarou asks if Hime means sneakers like his. She nods and says she wants the kind he usually wears. Surprised, Kotarou says his sneakers aren't even cute, but Hime happily adds that she also wants long-sleeved clothes like his, and pants too. She remembers seeing people climb Mount Takao in those outfits and says her village doesn't have clothes like that. Kotarou listens, realizing how she sees the outside world. He then asks if she'd like to try skirts as well. Hime quickly agrees, blushing with excitement as he shows her the women's skirts page on the tablet. She whispers how happy she is while staring at the screen with sparkling eyes. While Kotarou works at his desk, Hime is completely focused on the tablet. She happily swipes through clothes, dreaming about wearing sneakers. She kicks her feet in joy as she scrolls through more outfits, completely absorbed. Eventually, she falls asleep. Kotarou gently covers her with a blanket. When he looks at the tablet, he's shocked to see she had opened a lingerie page. Speechless, he carefully takes it away, unsure what to do. Later, Kotarou meets his friends Satoshi and Marisa. He tells them that, because of recent events, he and Hime are now living together. They sit in stunned silence, and Kotarou looks down before asking for their help. In a flashback, Hime works on a new sweatshirt, cutting holes for her wings. She proudly shows Kotarou her finished work. Overjoyed, she tries on her new outfit, pants, long sleeves, and sneakers. She loves how warm and comfortable they are, and how easy it is to move. She feels like she could outrun anyone in her village. Kotarou, impressed by her sewing, watches warmly as she admires herself. Looking in the mirror, Hime is overjoyed. She excitedly asks Kotarou if this means she can finally go outside since she looks like a normal girl. But then she remembers her wings. Her excitement fades and she tells herself she was silly to even think that. Seeing her disappointment, Kotarou gives her a gift, a backpack with holes cut out for her wings. He explains that if she makes her wings smaller, she can hide them inside. Hime realizes this means she can finally go outside without being recognized as a Tengu. She quickly tries it on, worried it might be cramped. Kotarou admits it looks a bit tight but reassures her no one will ever notice. Hime asks where he got such a backpack since they don't exist in stores. He awkwardly admits he sewed it himself, showing his bandaged fingers from the attempt. She's left speechless by his effort. Confused, she asks why he'd do this when he's always been against her going outside. Kotarou gently explains that he wants her to enjoy life too, and it would be a waste not to use the new clothes. He apologizes for always saying no just because she's a Tengu. Touched, Hime smiles and says it's okay. She has the backpack now, and she's grateful for how much he did for her. Kotarou then tells her he wants her to meet some people. Surprised, she asks who. Soon, at Hachioji Station, Hime is completely amazed. She shouts in excitement at the huge crowds and tall ceilings, thinking it feels like a festival. Kotarou, slightly embarrassed, tries to calm her down. She asks where they're going, wondering if they'll ride a train. Kotarou tells her they're meeting someone, just as he spots Marisa and Satoshi, who arrive apologizing for being late. Satoshi jokes about them traveling all the way to the middle of nowhere, and Kotarou quickly replies that it's just a direct ride on the Chuo line. Satoshi is shocked that Kotarou actually brought a girl with him. Marisa introduces herself and Satoshi to Hime. Hime is stunned, thinking Marisa looks and smells like a sparkling princess. She's flustered when Marisa calls her the real princess. Kotarou quietly tells Hime that Marisa and Satoshi already know she's a Tengu. Hime is confused about how they know she's a princess, and Kotarou explains he told them. He assures her it's fine if they know. Marisa cheerfully invites Hime to go shopping. At the mall, Hime looks around with wide-eyed wonder, asking if they can visit the clothing shops. But Marisa mysteriously says that's not their plan for today. Instead, she takes Hime to a lingerie shop and announces that's what they're here to buy. Hime is completely shocked. Hime shyly admits to Marisa that she hasn't told Kotarou about her interest in lingerie. She asks how Marisa knew, but Marisa smiles and says it's a secret. She explains that cute underwear makes you want to wear it. She felt the same when she was younger. She tells him that humans and Tengu aren't so different. Hime happily agrees. Marisa explains how to measure for a bra but realizes Hime will need to measure herself at home because of her wings. To fix this, she decides they'll just buy every size and jokes that rich Kotarou will pay for it, leaving him stunned. Hime shyly points at a cute set with a ribbon, and Marisa insists on getting the matching panties too. Meanwhile, Satoshi tells Kotarou that at first he didn't believe his story about Hime, but he says there was no reason for Kotarou to lie. What really surprised him wasn't that Hime is a Tengu. It was that Kotarou chose to live with someone on his own. Satoshi admits he feels relieved about it. Kotarou asks why he's so worried. Satoshi says Hime is a good girl, and just being around her makes him feel happier. He presses Kotarou about their relationship, saying since they aren't a couple, this situation may not be a good idea. Kotarou quietly admits he knows. He explains that when Hime finds someone she likes or another reason to leave, he'll let her go. Their conversation ends when Hime happily calls out that she's almost finished. Kotarou confirms to Satoshi that he truly feels better knowing they live together. Marisa tells him to try on all the bras and later buy the one that feels most comfortable. She says they'll come back again. Hime is overjoyed, asking if Marisa really wants to shop with her again. In the background, Satoshi jokingly asks if he can take the cute Hime home, earning a glare from Kotarou. Marisa smiles and says they'll all come back together. The four share a meal, becoming good friends. After saying goodbye at the station, Kotarou and Hime head home by bus. Marissa waves until they leave. On the way back, Kotarou asks Hime if she had fun. She exclaims it was amazing and tells him about the one-piece outfit Marissa picked for her. She says Marissa even wants to shop with her again. Surprised, Kotarou asks why she sounds unsure. Hime admits she wondered if Marissa truly wanted to be her friend. Just then, Marissa grabs Haime's shopping bag and says she already considers her a friend. Hime then asks if Satoshi can be her friend too, wondering aloud if that's possible. As they walk, Hime is mesmerized by the Christmas lights, calling them beautiful. Kotarou explains it's almost Christmas and that the lights run on electricity, which amazes her even more. She marvels at the colors, and Kotarou suggests they stop and enjoy the lights together. Marissa talks about how much Hachioji has changed. Kotarou agrees, remembering that the station used to be a department store when he was young. Now it's full of trendy shops. Hime adds that there weren't even any walkways back then. Hime looks around at the city and the people, her eyes shining. She turns to Kotarou and thanks him sincerely for the day. She thinks about everything: shopping, eating delicious food with everyone, and making new friends. It all feels like a dream. Hime asks Kotarou if she looks like a normal girl right now. Smiling, she wonders if that means she isn't a Tangu today. Her innocent question flusters Kotarou, who insists she misunderstood. He tells her that yes, she does look like a normal girl, but that wasn't why he helped her. He only wanted her to feel free to go outside, wear what she likes, and buy what she wants. He apologizes if he made her feel like she had to deny being a Tengu. He says there's no need for her to stop being herself. Looking at her, Kotarou tells Hime she's already very cute, just the way she is. His honest words leave her blushing and speechless. Hime softly repeats his words, whispering that she's very cute. Suddenly, Kotarou asks for her hand. He notices her shiny peel-off nail polish and is shocked. While he panics, Hime calmly says she has something to tell him too. She explains that she loves her Tengu friends and family, and she also loves her Tengu self. But more than all of that, she loves him. Holding his hand, she asks him not to hurt himself for her sake anymore. Kotarou is stunned. Hime smiles gently, then leans in and kisses his cheek. He turns red and is left speechless. Beaming, Hime tells him she loves him. In the background, the others continue their playful chatter. Marissa offers to teach Satoshi how to sew, but he insists he won't try again. The scene shifts to a memory of young Kotarou, sitting alone in the dark with a compass. The needle spins wildly no matter how much he shakes it. He wonders why it's broken and sadly calls out for his grandmother. Kotarou wakes up suddenly on his couch, the memory fresh in his mind. His friend Satoshi's words about his relationship with Hime echo in his head, making him think deeply. Back at home, Hime looks at the new bras she bought. She picks one, hugging it happily and saying how cute it is. Without hesitation, she takes off her sweatshirt to try it on. She admires her reflection, wondering if it's the right size. Deciding it's perfect, she suddenly decides to show Kotarou. Sensing her plan, Kotarou rushes to block the door. Hime tries to pull it open, insisting he look at her new bra. A flustered Kotarou begs her not to come out wearing only that. After the struggle, Kotarou firmly decides that from now on, Hime will be doing her own laundry. Kotarou thinks about how he never really had a reason to leave Hachioji. He was born and raised there, as were his parents. Even as an adult, he chose to stay, living in the blue co-op Hachioji, where everything he needed was just a train or bike ride away. His peaceful life is interrupted by the constant ringing of his doorbell. Annoyed, he mutters that he told them to ring only once. He opens the door to find him and his friend Sadaomi standing there. Jaime's eyes shine with curiosity as she stares at him. Kotarou keeps a straight face as they enter. Jaime's excitement quickly fades when she sees the messy apartment, exclaiming at how dirty it is. Sadaomi scolds Kotarou for not answering his phone, while Jaime cheerfully greets him. Kotarou coldly calls the visit bothersome. Hime points out that since their jobs are similar, he must have free time. Sadaomi says he'll explain on the way and asks Kotarou to come outside, reminding him he hasn't been out. Then Sadaomi notices the unfamiliar girl and asks who she is. The girl beams and introduces herself as Hime. Sadaomi is stunned, while Kotarou blushes, clearly flustered. Sadaomi explains he wants Kotarou to show them around Hachioji since he just moved back and doesn't know the city anymore. He says he's counting on Kotarou. Kotarou hesitates, claiming he doesn't know much. But Sadaomi points out that since Kotarou hasn't lived anywhere else, he must know Hachioji well. Kotarou admits the city is big, and there are many places he's never visited, but Sadaomi says just the station area is enough. Excited, Hime asks if Kotarou has really lived there his whole life. She then looks at Sadaomi curiously. Kotarou blushes at her comment. Jaime cheerfully says that she and Sadaomi are the same, making Kotarou nod awkwardly. Still confused, Sadaomi asks who she is. Jaime starts to explain that she's from Mount Takao, but Kotarou quickly covers her mouth and pulls her away. Whispering to Sadaomi, Kotarou insists that he'll believe him. Kotarou starts to explain who Hime is. He says she's actually a Tangu from Mount Takao. After some events, she ended up living with him and wants to learn about Hachioji, which is why he asked for the tour. Sadaomi stares at him in disbelief, clearly confused by the strange story. He asks what Kotarou is even talking about and why it matters if she's a Tengu. He wonders if Kotarou is being prejudiced. Shocked, Kotarou stammers that it has nothing to do with that. Looking from Kotarou to him, Sadaomi says she seems like a good person. He agrees to guide them, thinking to himself that it's probably for the best that Kotarou is such a strange guy. Sadaomi leads them to a busy manju shop. He asks if they've eaten at Miyako Manju before. Both shake their heads. Kotarou explains he only lived in the area until he was 8, which surprises Sadaomi. He sighs and says that means the answer is no. Taking a deep breath, Sadaomi suddenly bursts into song, singing a local folk tune. Kotarou is embarrassed and asks what he's doing, but Sadaomi says it's unthinkable for someone from Hachioji not to know the dance of the sun. Hime, meanwhile, just finds it fascinating. The three look into the shop window. Soon, Sadaomi proudly shows them a big box of fresh manju. He offers one to Hime, and Kotarou quickly snatches one too, insisting he wasn't only thinking about eating. Sadaomi laughs at Kotarou's eagerness as they all begin eating together. Hime is delighted by the sweet, fluffy treat. Kotarou tries one and thinks about having another, but Sadaomi stops him. Suddenly, Kotarou realizes he's tasted this before. Excitedly, he remembers eating it as a child. It was always in the kitchen at home. The taste brings back warm memories and he happily explains. Hime smiles, saying it seems like a taste of memory for everyone. Sadaomi, however, scolds Kotarou for eating an entire row by himself. Struggling with the heavy bag of manju, Sadaomi tries to keep up, while Hime excitedly asks where they're going next. Sadaomi suggests heading back to the station, but Hime notices all the manju are gone. When she turns around, she sees Sadaomi has disappeared. She calls out his name, only to find he's already leading them down some stairs into a bookstore. Hime looks around curiously, asking what the place is. Kotarou explains it's a bookshop, though he wonders what's special about this particular Kumazawa bookstore. Sadaomi tells him to look more closely. Hime exclaims that she's never been in a bookstore before, while Kotarou mutters that maybe it's just because the whole building is filled with books. Hime happily runs inside. Kotarou sighs, thinking this was supposed to be a food tour. Hime grins at him, saying they can buy lots of books since he loves reading. Sadaomi looks at them, a little stunned. Hime tries to pull Kotarou along but hesitates. As they go upstairs, Sadaomi offers his hand to Hime so she doesn't fall. Surprised, she blushes, thinking it feels like being treated like a princess. She thanks him, and he tells her to watch her step. Kotarou frowns gloomily at the scene. Inside, the bookstore is full of manga shelves. Hime stares at the drawings in awe. Sadaomi explains that the entire basement floor sells only comics and related items. When he asks if she knows what manga is, she proudly answers that it's a book full of illustrations. He nods, saying comic means the same thing. Sadaomi explains that he often lends Kotarou his comics. Hime asks if he likes manga too. He says yes, but he also reads regular books. He explains that he grew up in the mountains where there wasn't much to do, but sometimes his parents brought him into the city. Buying books here was the highlight of those trips. He admits he loved the secret underground atmosphere of the shop and still finds it cool. Manga and this store, he says, both make him feel like he's in another world. Hime smiles warmly. She says it's not boring at all. She actually thinks he and Kotarou are very alike. She explains that when Kotarou reads a book, his eyes look just like Sadaomi's, completely absorbed, like he's devouring it. She says that's why she understands their friendship now. Smiling brightly, she adds that it's wonderful to have something you truly love. Sadaomi is left speechless for a moment. Hime beams when he offers to recommend some books for her. Meanwhile, Kotarou overhears something that shocks him. This is the main Kumazawa bookstore, and it's right here in Hachioji. As the evening grows darker, Sadaomi looks at the two of them and suggests they grab some ramen before heading back. Kotarou agrees. Hime excitedly shouts, "Ramen!" She confirms she already knows what it is, and that she loves it, leaving Kotarou surprised. Hime excitedly explains that ramen is amazing because it's dry at first but turns delicious with hot water, like magic. She admits she eats it every 3 days, leaving Kotarou and Sadaomi stunned. Sadaomi quickly tells Kotarou not to get the wrong idea, insisting Hime eats proper meals too. He says she'll be really surprised by real ramen. The group walks through the Teleo shopping center. Sadaomi tells them to go ahead while he catches up. Jaime wonders if he went to the washroom, joking that it's like needing the toilet after visiting a bookstore. They arrive at Bin Bin Ramen. At the vending machine, they choose their orders and sit at the counter. Kotarou, thinking Hime is comparing it to cup ramen, tells her it's fine to like it that much. It's just not the usual bowl. Hime only smiles at him. Sadaomi comes back and offers Hime a handkerchief for her clothes. Both she and Kotarou are surprised. Hime gratefully accepts it, touched by his kindness. An older woman nearby remarks to her husband that he should be that considerate, while Kotarou sighs, thinking, it's just a ramen shop. Their food arrives. 3 steaming bowls of ramen and a plate of gyoza. Hime and Kotarou stare in awe at the Hachioji ramen. She asks if it's sold in convenience stores, and Sadaomi explains it became very popular a few years ago. Jaime takes her first bite, her eyes widening in shock. She exclaims that this is real ramen, so different from what she's used to. Kotarou mutters that it's the usual reaction from someone who's only eaten cup ramen. Hime gushes about the sweetness from the vegetables, the crunch of the onions, and how she didn't expect the spice. Kotarou agrees that the mix of soy sauce, ramen, and onions is surprisingly good. Blowing on her noodles, she happily takes another bite while Sadaomi quietly watches. Suddenly, Hime shouts how delicious it is, startling Kotarou. She thanks Sadaomi for bringing her and says she loves it. Kotarou is taken aback by her passion. She says she wants to eat here every day, and Kotarou just shakes his head at how much she loves ramen. When they leave, Hime exclaims again how good it was. Sadaomi suggests doing a full Hachioji ramen tour next time, and Hime eagerly agrees. Then Sadaomi notices Hime has stopped walking. She turns, smiling brightly, and calls his name. With a gentle look, Sadaomi thanks her for the day. Hime quickly replies that she should be the one thanking him. She says that even though she's lived in Hachioji her whole life, she didn't really know it until now, and she's glad to have learned more. She beams, thanking him again for such a wonderful day. Sadaomi tells her that's not what he meant, leaving Kotarou confused. Then, to everyone's shock, Sadaomi pulls out a bouquet of roses. Rose petals flutter in the air as he tells Hime he's truly grateful to have met her. He explains that the flowers show his feelings and asks her to accept them. Kotarou is stunned, wondering if his friend is confessing. He stammers Sadaomi's name but is too shocked to say more. Hime stares at the bouquet in awe. She thanks Sadaomi, admitting she's never received anything so lovely before. Kotarou grows even more flustered. Hime smells the roses, telling Sadaomi she's glad she likes them. Then she panics, realizing she's only been receiving all day and hasn't given anything in return. She wonders what she can do, but Sadaomi reassures her that it's fine. He wanted to give them to her. Looking down at the bouquet, Hime plucks a single rose. She says it might not be a proper gift, but she wants him to have it as a memento of today. Smiling, she tells him she wants to share it because the day was so fun. Sadaomi takes the rose and looks at her warmly. He asks if she knows the meaning of giving someone back a single rose. Hime cheerfully admits she doesn't, and he just says that's okay. She then runs to Kotarou, showing him the bouquet with sparkling eyes. She exclaims it's her first time seeing such beautiful roses. Kotarou just stares, stunned. As the evening darkens, Sadaomi tells them to be careful heading home. Hime thanks him again for the day and the flowers. Kotarou wonders when they'll all meet again. Hime waves goodbye, smiling brightly. Suddenly, Kotarou grabs her hand as she walks away. He holds it tightly and leads her forward. Hime looks up at him, asking what's wrong, but he just stammers that it's nothing. Still, he doesn't let go. Kotarou thinks to himself that seeing Hime and Sadaomi get along should be a good thing, yet he feels restless. A memory flashes in his mind. His grandmother once told him about her many siblings, but only one survived. That day, the family mourned the last of them. The adults whispered about the long suffering of the deceased. Overwhelmed, young Kotarou angrily threw his book to the ground. He hated everything about that moment. He wanted his grandmother's attention, hoping she would be the same grandma he remembered. A voice told him not to talk to the dead anymore, not to think about them. He believed that after this, she would always stay with him. At the orphanage, whispers followed him. The other kids pitied the boy whose grandmother died just after bringing him there, leaving him with no family. A teacher, Miss Yamaki, told Kotarou clearly. The teachers weren't his parents, and the other kids weren't his brothers or sisters. One teacher promised they'd always be there for him, but another reminded him it was only until he turned 18. New teachers like Yoshikawa-sensei came and went, each saying they would do their best to help him. Through all this, Kotarou learned a hard truth. People he trusted would always leave. He started to believe he was born into a world where he would be left behind again and again until he died. To protect himself, he decided he didn't need anyone. But lately, with him, things had been so fun that he forgot about that painful decision. He realized sometimes people who cared about him did appear in his life, but he got his hopes up too much. He told himself he had no right to feel worried. His dark thoughts stopped when Him called his name. She had finished arranging flowers and cheerfully suggested they eat lunch. She moved to the kitchen, grating fresh yuzu while the fox spirit watched. She squeezed something from a bag and mixed the zest into a dark sauce. With the rice ready, Hime shaped onigiri, making one extra big. Proudly, she showed them to Kotarou, giggling at her work. Kotarou spread the yuzu miso sauce on the onigiri and toasted them. When they were ready, Hime admired the grilled onigiri with amazement. Kotarou told her to eat first. She happily thanked him and took a bite. They both enjoyed the food. Kotarou said it was delicious and explained he'd eaten grilled onigiri with miso before, but never with yuzu. Hime told him the yuzu was a gift from their neighbor. She pointed to another box and asked what it was. She suggested they use it next, maybe to make jam for bread. She excitedly planned to have it for breakfast tomorrow. Kotarou agreed with a soft sigh. Just then, the doorbell rang, startling them. Kotarou went to the door, while Hime wondered about the strange sound. To her surprise, it was Marisa and Satoshi. Marisa apologized for coming without warning and said they had something important to share. Hime seemed to guess, but Kotarou already knew. Marisa announced that she and Satoshi were getting married. Hime was shocked, but Kotarou wasn't surprised. Marisa said they wanted Kotarou to be the first to know. She teased Hime about giving Satoshi advice, making Hime blush. The couple bowed, asking for their friend's support. Hime recovered and warmly congratulated them. Marisa and Satoshi asked Kotarou if he would come to the wedding, and of course invited Hime too. Hime was surprised, but Marisa told her they'd be happy to have her. Thinking about her first wedding, Hime nervously wondered what to wear. Kotarou teased that Marisa had waited a long time, but Marisa said it was Satoshi who delayed proposing. Satoshi laughed, saying they were always together anyway. Curious, Hime asked what people did after marriage. Marisa explained that traditions weren't too different from the Tengu's, and simply said, when people marry, they become a family. The word family lingered. Kotarou repeated it softly, and the idea of home stirred something inside him. The couple talked about buying new furniture and asked Kotarou and Hime to go shopping with them. Hime was quick to agree. Satoshi said they'd need to share chores, and Hime eagerly offered to help clean. Marisa added they could even travel together, leaving Hime speechless with excitement. Marisa joked about being buried in the same coffin, but Kotarou told her to stop. Hime seriously noted that it meant they'd be together even in the same graveyard, though far in the future. Then she realized that being a family also meant being together at bedtime. She happily concluded that they'd always be together, even when they grew old. Suddenly, Kotarou snapped, "That's not going to happen." The room went silent. Embarrassed, he quickly apologized, while the others looked at him with concern. Satoshi tries to reason with Kotarou. He says it's impossible for people to always stay together. Accidents or illness can happen anytime. What matters, he explains, is doing everything you can to be with the one you love each day. He asks Kotarou if that isn't enough, but Kotarou stays silent. Hime looks at Kotarou with worry. He struggles to find words, then suddenly stands up and declares that he can't do it. He walks out, leaving Hime calling after him. Alone, he admits he doesn't know how to believe. Looking at photos of his lost family, painful memories flood back. He convinces himself that every good thing always comes to an end. Back inside, Marisa apologizes to him, though Hime is more concerned about Kotarou. Marisa tells Satoshi to try to understand Kotarou's feelings, but Satoshi brushes it off as childish. He says that after years of friendship, he feels it's actually Kotarou who refuses to understand him. Satoshi admits that he and Marisa are not enough for Kotarou, that they aren't enemies, but they just don't fit with him. The couple then turn to him with a heartfelt request. Please stay by Kotarou's side, because they don't want to see him alone anymore. Later, Hime quietly approaches Kotarou. She places a cup of tea in front of him with a gentle smile. Kotarou plugs in a small heater. Hime asks what it is, and he tells her it's starting to snow. She says it might get cold, then slides open the door and stares in awe at the sight. Remembering Marisa's words, she marvels that the snow is really piling up. Excited, she runs outside, declaring that the cold doesn't bother her. She calls for Kotarou to join her and even uses her powers to create a warm space for him. He follows her into the yard, watching as she crouches down to build something in the snow. Hime sits quietly in the falling snow, sipping a warm drink while Kotarou stands beside her, staring at the white landscape, lost in thought. She asks if he likes summer or winter. Kotarou says he prefers summer. Hime agrees, saying summer is fun for playing, but winter has its limits. You have to wait for the snow to melt. Still, she adds, snowball fights are fun too. Kotarou admits that winter feels lonely. Hime lifts the small snowman she made and says she loves winter just as much as summer. She acknowledges the hardships, the cold, fewer fresh vegetables, and people getting sick. She adds that the quiet can make you feel alone and sad. Then, with a reassuring smile, she gently takes Kotaru's hand while holding her snowman in the other. Hime softly tells Kotarou, "It's okay." She assures him he isn't alone. She explains that when winter ends, spring will come, then summer, then autumn. And when winter comes again, it won't feel so scary anymore. Kotarou watches the little snowman start to melt in his hand. Even with her comforting words, one thought remains. But he looks at Hime and finally speaks his deepest fear. He says that someday, even she will be gone. To avoid that pain, he pretends no one is important to him because, eventually, they will leave. He admits he can't bear the heartbreak of losing someone he loves again. Hime listens with deep compassion. She pulls him into a strong embrace, holding him close in the falling snow. "I'm not going to disappear," she whispers firmly. Gently touching his face, she looks into his eyes with certainty. "It's okay," she says again, and promises, "I will always be by your side, Kotarou." She recalls seeing him as a heartbroken child and regrets not being there for him back then. But this time, she swears, he won't be alone. She thanks him for considering her someone important. Overwhelmed by her kindness and her vow, Kotarou can't hold back his tears. They cling to each other in the quiet snowy garden, sharing a silent promise about their future. Back inside, Kotarou finally speaks about his childhood. He admits he hated his grandfather. After his parents died, his grandmother became his whole world, and he was hers. But whenever she read his grandfather's book, Kotarou noticed a different expression on her face. Even as a child he understood, she wasn't just reading, she was looking at the memory of his grandfather. He feared that memory would take her away from him, and he carried that fear ever since. Now he realizes that she must have been lonely too. Hime reflects that his grandmother lived a long life and must have lost many loved ones. She reminds Kotarou that life is full of separations if you live long enough, but she reassures him that his grandmother treasured him most of all and wanted to stay with him forever. Leaving him behind must have been painful for her too. After Him hugs him again, Kotarou suggests they visit his grandmother's grave when the weather warms up, and also visit Hime's family's graves. Hime is overjoyed. She excitedly says she'll introduce him to her parents as the person most important to her. She reminds him of his promise. Kotarou looks at her for a long moment. She wonders what he's thinking, but then he pulls her into a hug and simply says, "Sure." Leaning close, he whispers that he'll tell her parents she's important to him too. Hime trembles with emotion in his arms. "I won't leave you alone," he promises, holding her tight. Outside, two small snowmen sit side by side, a quiet sign of their new beginning together.